His skin is white just like a ghost, thick Irish roots and his blonde hair. And he sounds like a Chicago superfan, a music nerd with a collection of CDs from here to there. Yes, Andy Dare is in Chicago, interviewing and barbecuing. It's the Andy Dare Show. It's the Andy Dare Show.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for checking out the Andy Dare Show. This is episode 126. I am joined by a recurring guest and a friend of the Dare Network, Jay Porks. He is a writer, he is a podcaster, he's a great photographer. He does his own show, The Jay Porks Experience, every Tuesday night here at Dare Network. And yes, do check it out. He does social media for the Meat Puppets. He writes for Concert Confessions. He writes for Anti-Quiet. He's all over the place. And he's also a really good waiter. We get all into it. And today's topic is our thoughts about Post-Grunge, or, you know, the big record label signing frenzy of 1994 and 1995. And, you know, it was strong for a couple of years, but it petered out just like all trends usually do. And so we discuss, you know, the good moments and the bad moments about the post-grunge era, which I like to think is 1994 to year 2000. So I thought, who better to talk about post-grunge than Jay Porks? Previously, we've discussed our favorite grunge moments, so I thought this would be great. And it was. And it's a delightful chat. We'll play that in a little bit. Just want to thank Ryan Hoppy for being my guest last week. And I find it no small coincidence. Okay, it is a coincidence. But last week he also landed a pretty sweet gig working with Rover's Morning Glory radio show. And that's very cool. I know he's a longtime fan. He's going out there to Cleveland. He'll be a call screener. And I just want to thank him for being on my show. And best of luck, Ryan. And, yeah, what else has been new? Last week, Uncle Bub's, my huge, awesome sponsor. They've been my place of work for a long time. They celebrated 17 years. Their big anniversary was last Monday. And, yeah, it was good times. They had $1.17 pulled pork sandwiches. Guess how many sandwiches they sold? Over 3,400 pulled pork sandwiches sold. That's insane. That just goes to show that Uncle Bub's is real cool because they give back to they have a loyal fan base built up in the Chicago and western suburbs. And, yes, they all came out. They flocked out. And, yeah, we sold over 3,400 pulled pork sandwiches to a hungry crowd. And couldn't thank them enough for being great sponsors to my show and for keeping it up. And 17 years, that's a long time, especially in the restaurant industry. And very cool, Uncle Bub's. Check them out at UncleBubs.com. And, yeah, just want to thank Empty Lighthouse for posting my articles. I've got some new record reviews up. I got the Foo Fighters Sonic Highways, that record review, and I've also got Pink Floyd and their Endless River album. And check it out at EmptyLighthouse.com. I also do post about it at AndyDare.com and on Facebook and Twitter. That's about it for my spiel this week. We got a nice long episode, an in-depth discussion on post-grunge with Jay Porks. Want to thank you for checking out Dare Network and the Jay Porks Experience. Follow us on Twitter at DERER Network, Dare Network. And, yeah, new shows coming weekly. And, yes, without further ado, my episode 126, The Post-Grunge Blues, with special guest Jay Porks. Hey everybody, thank you so much for checking out the Andy Dare Show. This is episode 126. I am joined by a recurring guest, Jay Porks. How you doing, bud?
I am doing awesome, and yourself?
Doing pretty good. Yeah, it's definitely got a lot colder here in Chicagoland. We're getting a little snow. You guys get snow over in Staten Island yet?
We didn't get snow here, but I think Interpol was snowed in Buffalo today. So
Nice.
that's like 10 hours away. But yeah, there is snow in New York, just not near me. Not yet. Please stay away.
So Buffalo is really 10 hours away from the city, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's crazy.
It's closer to Canada.
That's like me going to Canada. Yeah, that's
Yeah. Buffalo and like Albany, the capital of New York, they're closer to Canada than they are to me.
That's crazy, huh? And Interpol's music is so icy to begin with. It probably was a decent concert, actually. Yeah.
There's some hashtag on Twitter that was going. That's Interpol snowed in, and it's like naming songs, but putting instead of song lyrics, putting snow in there.
Nice.
So that was fun.
I like them, but yeah, they're kind of post-grunge, and I thought this episode we could talk about post-grunge. Since the last time I had you on, I looked it up, and it was, I guess, best grunge moments or something like that. And yeah, so now we're going to tackle like 1994 to 2000, which, the quality dipped off a little bit after, that signing frenzy. But yeah, there was some good acts that came out of that.
There was a lot of good acts, and there was a lot of bands got exposure, some bad, some good, but a lot of bands got thrown into the grunge / post grunge title, and they didn't want. Some bands didn't like it, and it in turn made some bands take a different direction with their music, and maybe not be as powerful as they could have been.
Sure. Yeah, but I thought before we get into our lists, let's discuss what's new with you. You're doing your own show, the J Porks Experience, usually every Monday or Tuesday, and yeah, I've been enjoying those. Have you been having fun doing those?
I've been having tons of fun doing it. It's so good that there's always something. Like, what am I, 56 episodes in? I've been doing it a year. Yeah, and I'm thinking one of these days I'm just going to text Andy and I'm going to say, listen, we're going to skip a week. I don't have anything. But that hasn't happened. The times I've told you I need to skip a week was, there was real stuff going on. I had to work or whatever. It's really fun. I have fun with it. And everyone's like, oh, you have a podcast, but I'm like, yeah, it's cool. It's fun.
Yeah, well, you could probably take a break for Thanksgiving, and then we'll get back into it, and we'll do one for, like, the New Year's Eve. We'll take a break. But, yeah, you've been very consistent, and that's very important with, like, getting a show going. People have to expect to have something new from you every week, or else, yeah, they go checking out the next show,
Exactly. That's why along with I keep it current with the headlines, and I also try to mix in, some funny stuff that I've been working on that I just, that I've been looking at, and, I like Starbucks and I like Neil Young, so I got to figure out a way to combine the two.
I like that. Yeah, I don't agree with Neil's take on that, but yeah, once again, you said he's such a likable guy. You almost consider it for a second, but then you go, hey, I want my coffee,
Need it. Love it. I need to be pretentious, I need to do it. That's me.
It's funny, but yeah, he's always taking a stand against something. That's that whole hippie belief. That's that whole baby boomers 60s lifestyle. And I'm reading his new book now, and it's called Super Deluxe, his memoir, his life, and cars. And it's going to talk about all the different cars he's had. And then the first couple pages talk about how he wanted to call it Cars and Dogs and discuss all the dogs he had. And then this is pretty funny. He goes, but looking back on it, I thought one night, I wasn't a very good master to any of my dogs, and I didn't want anybody like PETA or anybody who's like a really big dog lover to stop being my fan once they read this book. So I decided to just call it About Cars. But dogs will be talked about, don't worry, he said in the beginning. So
he was very conscious of the social ramifications of
he knew what he was getting into, which was smart. And yeah, so hopefully that'll be a good read. But, yeah, another funny thing about your show is you talk a lot about server life, server problems. You wait tables in an Italian restaurant. You don't have to mention the name, but, it's a kind of a cool thing because you're kind of performing when you're doing that. You're working for the tip, so you're trying to be a likable guy. It's actually a skill that is quite needed in life, I think.
Yeah, I trained. There's a lot of people who've served food at places I've worked, and they try to make the transition from working behind the counter or being the bus person to being the waiter, and they're like, a lot of people are afraid of the table. They won't want to talk. They'll just go there with the pad and expect the people to tell them what it is. Like, I go over to the table and I'm like, hello, la la la. I'm like, it's like I'm just all over the place. Some people don't like it, and I tell those people I work Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday, and you can come on the other days if you don't like fish stick. But like, that's just what it is. For if you're not you have to not be afraid to be like a little silly. Because somebody said to me, this is tough. It's tough getting in front of people. How do you ever work up the courage to do this? And I said to them, this is the job you do when you can't do anything else in life. This is the job you do when you failed at college and, your real day job and everything's not worked out for you. You go wait tables. I mean,
well, yeah, I do that a little bit too at my barbecue company, and yeah, I like talking to the people. I like trying to crack jokes. They don't always work. Sometimes they just give you a look and a cold stare, but sometimes it's funny. It's a lot easier to work on old people, I found, and like I do this thing where there's two baskets in the window. I got to go run them. They're both pulled pork, French fries, and coleslaw. So I go to the table. It's an elderly couple, and I go, "Who had the pulled pork, coleslaw, and French fries?" And they both look at each other confused. I say, "You both did." And then I plop it down, and if they're old people, they usually they laugh a lot and clap. Sometimes you try that for some teenagers, though, and they won't be laughing.
You know what you got to do on the teenagers?
Yeah, exactly.
Teenagers, you have to tell them, when you put the food down, tell them to put it on Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. Or they forget what they ordered 5 minutes ago. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to do some hip way of hashtag LOL, and they'll love you.
Or either that, or you say, "Did you order this?" And then people look around like, "No, what are you an insane man? Did you escape from a mental asylum and bring this food to us?" And then they go, "Oh, actually, I did order that." It's like, dude, it was 5 minutes ago. How did you forget so quickly?
Like, how do you come to a restaurant and act and all of a sudden, people walk into restaurants and they forget, how to live.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I ordered this, but, I wanted spaghetti instead of angel hair. It's the shape of a pasta. They're made out of the same thing. I don't get why pasta's all these different shapes and sizes. It's the same thing. It's a noodle.
Okay, and you just had the pleasure of seeing your buddies, the Meat Puppets, live. I did not get to see them for their Chicago date at the Empty Bottle. I was pretty bummed about it. I had another thing going on that night. But, yeah, how'd that show go?
It was a great set. The band is tighter than ever right now. Elmo is just killing it. I mean, every time I see them, it seems to get better. And I got the pleasure of seeing them at Rough Trade Records in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. It's a gigantic record store that almost like a record store amusement park sort of place. You walk in, there's lots of pretty colors and vinyl everywhere, and kids dig that in Williamsburg. And in the back, there's at the end of the night before they close, they have a line and they let you into the back room, which is like a smaller type rock venue, but your cookie cutter balcony around, standing room only, bar on the left, sort of 600-700 people, maybe 1,000. But it was good times.
Yeah, I looked at the venue. It looked awesome. Rough Trade is a historic record label. They had the Smiths, had a bunch of other cool 80s bands. But yeah, it looked like the Virgin Megastore. I remember that back in Chicago. That's been closed 7 years now. But
it was
good times.
It felt like, when you see things like Amobia in LA and you see things like these bands playing in stores. I would have loved if they played in the regular lights and just played some acoustic Kumbaya stuff. That would have been cool. But they went back there and rocked it, and Cass McCombs rocked it too. He covered Metallica for no reason whatsoever, and it was amazing.
I got to get into them. I'm pretty unaware of them, but seeing pictures I saw, Elmo looks like he's taking a page out of your book, and every picture I see him, he's getting skinnier and skinnier, and his hair's getting shorter too.
That's funny because when I walked in, and I gave him my, what's going on, Elmo? And he was talking to a girl, so I don't want to hang on. I'm going to keep moving, and Elmo's going to do his thing. And he turns, and he's like, dude, you are so freaking skinny. It is unbelievable. And because I've lost a lot of weight, and I'm like, dude, you play guitar like a magician, man. I'll trade you. So I think because when I saw him in Colorado, he just kept looking at me like in amazement. So if he's jealous, I can give him some tips.
Yeah, because I've seen him twice, and the first time was 11/11/11, November 11th, 2011, and it looked like he was a lot bigger than his dad even at that point, just a pretty hulking dude. And then like the next show I saw him in was just a year ago, so 2013. He had slimmed down, and now I'm seeing pictures now, and it's just like, yeah, I don't know if they're putting him through a boot camp or something. I feel like touring would be hard to lose weight because you're always up late, you're probably sleeping in, you're getting the McDonald's breakfast, you're doing all that stuff, you know.
Bad diets and stuff. But you know what it is? You know who could be an influence on him? Shannon Som, the drummer in the Meat Puppets, is like this. I don't know if
he
he's
clocks in at what, $120, if that?
It's something like that. And he's short too. He's like 5'6", because I look down to him and I'm 5'9". I'm not tall at all. And I don't know if he's like full vegan or whatever. He's very aware of what he eats. He eats very healthy. So like maybe he can be dragging Elmo to these wrestlers. I don't know.
How do you do that on tour? Like these guys, I hear about it all the time, like Billy Corgan, for example. Vegan or pescatarian, and they're playing shows all over the country. Like, how do you do that in like Nebraska?
They have to bring their own food. BYOF. That's what it is. You have to have your own backup food in case something goes awry, or you plan your tour itinerary around like vegan friendly, you know, paths along America.
Hey, did you happen to see the news about Billy Corgan about they are playing shows? They have a new album out December 9th. They had Tommy Lee recording the whole album. You heard about that and everything. Yeah. And but guess who is the drummer for the tour dates?
You know what? I saw it and I was gonna tell you about it, and I can't remember. It just slipped my mind, literally.
It's Brad from Rage Against the Machine and Audioslave, who is a beast, and they need the muscle. The last guy they had, Mike Byrne, is this guy who was 22. He's like 10 years younger than me, almost. You know, he's got the peach fuzz. He's got the skinny arms. You can't drum for the Pumpkins. They need the Tommy Lees. They need the Brad Wilks, the Jimmy Chamberlains. They need the muscle behind them because Billy's songs are very delicate and very, you know, emotional before emo rock and all that stuff.
Right.
And but the cool thing was the juxtaposition with like the Meathead Bonham drums behind that stuff.
It was always very powerful drumming going on. Always.
Yeah. So like that was good news to hear. We did just hear, I'm dropping this on my show for the first time, that Billy has parted ways with Resistance Pro Wrestling, the league I had been helping out with for a year and a half. I don't want to speak anything else besides that. It was a series of 2 tweets. He said he was going to embellish on it in the coming week. Still no word. I've heard that the owners are bargaining with him or something like that to try to bring him back. They were taping a reality series for AMC. And I was at about 4 or 5 of these tapings where Billy had a camera on him for, 2 hours the entire event. And so if that just all goes in the garbage can, that would just be such a shame because they put so much work into this. And I hope it all works out. I've heard people say maybe this is part of a storyline, which would be really funny and kind of ingenious. But wishing for the best for Resistance Pro, wishing for the best for the Corgans too. So.
Absolutely. I read the headline that he left. But I didn't think of it because I figured I'll listen to Andy and he'll explain it to me. And what you just did, you're right. It could be maybe he's bargaining for some more money or something's going on behind the scenes. We don't know.
Yeah, something like that. And I woke up on my birthday with a bunch of tweets to me saying, "Hey, did you see Billy left? Hey, Billy Corgan just left." I get it. I know. I'm not like his brother. I don't need to know all this stuff. So
yeah. Let's just hope in the end it ends with everyone happy and some of that and none of that film going in the garbage.
Yeah, exactly. He's been famous of as soon as you got him pegged, he will switch it up and do something else and then leave you high and dry. But I mean, he's a nice guy when I've met him and stuff. It's just he's a very he's an artist. He likes to just once you think you know what you got, he'll change it so half the people are pissed then.
Hey, listen, as long as it doesn't have an HBO series, I'm down.
Yeah, and you probably still haven't seen a minute of Sonic Highways? Or?
Not yet. I'm holding off until
Just do it for the Albini. There's about a 12-minute portion on episode 1. It's funny because on the Comcast it says season 1, episode 1. Like this could be a continuing thing. I don't think they would do that though because
put more out. Every album is gonna come with a HBO series.
But yeah, it is really well done. That's why I can't hate on it. I know you have your own thoughts about the Foo.
I'm a weirdo,
but
I'm a different guy.
The Albini segment is great, and then the latest one was in L.A., in the desert of L.A., so not L.A., the desert, where Josh Homme and the Queens are from.
Oh, yeah,
And
the Joshua Tree, like they go
yeah,
out.
actually in Joshua Tree. But Josh Homme's talking about like Caius, his first band and stuff.
Yeah, right.
And they're having generator parties out in the desert. They just bring a generator and they plug in. They put all their cars, into a circle, just like the Meat Puppets used to do. They would put their cars in a circle so no coyotes and no, weird ass desert animals or snakes come and kill you while you're rocking out. But
It's crazy.
the coolest moment that you would enjoy from the last episode is Josh Homme, or it's Grohl saying on an MTV interview with Chris Novoselic and Kurt Cobain holding Francis, saying, "Hey guys, you got to check out this desert rock from Palmdale, whatever, California. It's Caius." And so Josh Homme got mentioned to Cobain while he was alive, pretty much. So it's kind of a cool moment. But yeah, I mean, I understand your feelings about Grohl and company, but I think eventually you should just at least just check it out. So.
Oh yeah, well I'm definitely gonna just when the wave ends.
Sure. Yeah, there's 3 more episodes. So.
Yeah, well, since it's been made, it's even when it's off the air, it's always going to be there. It's always going to be available somewhere to be watched. So
it's true, and part of your hatred might be that he just had that Sound City movie, which is very in the same vein.
It's overkill right now. It's a lot. It's just overkill, and
then I was thinking before that, about a year before that, he had the Back and Forth movie, which told the story of the Foo Fighters, which was done by Roswell Pictures, who's doing this thing, who did the Sound City. So it's been 3 years in a row of some, film content out of Grohl. So I could see how you might be on burnout with, this going to be 8 hours because they're each 60 minutes for the Sonic Highway. So that's a total of 8-hour movie, pretty much.
Now he's like the news. He's got, everything is like, Dave Grohl said this, Dave Grohl said that. Are you guys looking for a new dad? Like, just
24-hour news cycle is Grohl right now.
Is right now, and I tweeted the other day, like, times like this, I'm like, where's Radiohead, because thinking
true.
Find all this.
All right, well, yes, I thought we could come back with our lists of post-grunge good bands and bad bands, and yes, we'll be right back after this. More with Jay Porks after this. This episode of The Andy Dare Show is brought to you in part by Uncle Bub's award-winning barbecue in Westmont, Illinois. Family owned and operated since 1997, Uncle Bub's is the real deal barbecue. A family-friendly restaurant open 7 days a week. Also, it's a full-service catering company doing weddings, pig roasts, luau's, grill packages, you name it. They have a friendly, helpful staff that will make sure that your party goes off without a hitch. Call them at 630-493-9000. Visit them at 132 South Cass Avenue in Westmont, Illinois, and UncleBubs.com. Hey man, I know you like grilling. I know you like getting those dark grill marks on your burgers, fish, chicken. And I know you don't want to just dry your meat out like you're cooking with a hairdryer. Why not get the Man Grate and click through the AndyDareShow.com's banner so we can keep the lights on here at Honeycomb Hideout Studios in gorgeous Westmont, Illinois. The Man Grate. This episode of The Andy Dare Show is brought to you in part by Record Utopia, a music lover's dream with thousands of vinyl records, musical instruments, and sound gear. They buy, sell, and trade. Give them a call at 630-963-1957. Visit them in Westmont, Illinois at 309 West Ogden Avenue, on the web at recordutopia.com. It's always a good, relaxed atmosphere. Check them out, Record Utopia. All right, we are back with Jay Porks. I brought a very, very casual list that I came up with while eating some food today. And Post-Grunge was weird. After Kurt Cobain's death, there was another big signing frenzy, back when people still made millions and millions off of the recorded music, which is crazy to think about nowadays. But yes, there was platinum albums all over the place. And 1994, I'd say, would be the epic, or would be the peak of recorded music, maybe, or the compact disc and recorded music, maybe.
Well, 94, it was a big year for everything. It's a huge year. I remember Rangers won the Stanley Cup. I remember even that happened. Like, 94 just was off the charts for everything left. But yeah, good music was happening. There was tons of albums getting put out.
In sports, too, the baseball strike, which actually changed baseball for me forever. Yeah.
Right, yeah. That was so different. Everything was that was weird. You're right. I do remember that because the Yankees were in first place, and
The
then they
White
went
Sox were in first place too, and like we were destined to win, and we
for
could
a minute.
never get it back after that. We could never come back.
The White Sox got one since then.
Well, I mean, in 2005, which seemed like,
Yeah,
yeah, I guess it was only 11 years later, but
I mean,
it
at least you
seemed like
got one.
that is true. But how many you guys got?
Well, 20. Listen, I'm also a Jets fan, so let's
Oh,
not
yeah.
let's not.
That's true. I'm not a Cubs fan. I can't play that card. I can't play the 110 years or whatever.
See if Joe Madden can end the
Yeah.
curse.
Who knows? Everybody's putting all their hopes into him, so we'll see.
Doubt it.
Yeah, highly doubt it. But yeah, 94, Kurt's death, O.J. Simpson, all that stuff.
Paul Chase. Paul Chase.
That was craziness. And also, it was a great year in music. Weezer, Pearl Jam, excuse me, but all this other Beck, Loser, all this stuff, Hole. But Post-Grunge is something different than those bands I just mentioned, because Pearl Jam was actually kind of grunge. Beck was something completely else. Hole was actually grunge. Radiohead was a weird thing where they started off as alternative and then totally took it to left field in their coming albums. But post-grunge it's kind of a bad word, actually. It's like grunge but photocopied or something, and it's kind of like blown out. And but some bands actually did it with some respect, but a lot of bands really just,
It's like when I say, like, people say alternative as if it was a sound, instead of, like, alternative really means, like, not mainstream, but alternative, the other thing. Well, post-grunge means it's not, doesn't really sound like a sound, it means, like, what came after grunge. But a lot of that, it's not what came after grunge, but because a lot of these bands that I'm going to talk about were already together, like, early 90s, before 94, and then but in 94, or 95, their album came out where it's like, whoa, okay, like this is
nice.
It's got a lot of influence from grunge, but it's not necessarily grungy, because Cobain wore the Grunge is Dead t-shirt in 92. So
Sure.
in 92, people was trying to get away from it.
Yeah, and I'd say like the hallmarks of a post-grunge sound are even throatier vocals. They're
Oh, yeah.
and like the Pearl Jam guitars, but not as much fretwork, really kind of just playing the three chords but trying to lumber on it like it's the Pearl Jam sound, but a lot less.
To an arena.
Yeah, like arena rock with the throaty vocals, with the super serious take on life, with
Yes.
the seeing your baby boy born and rejoicing on a mountaintop or something like that. I don't know, but this is
Weird
like
music videos, really in depth for
Yeah.
no reason.
Well, how about I'll bring up my bad post-grunge bands. I got 3 of them. First one is Semisonic.
You don't like Semisonic?
I'm not a big Semisonic fan. To be honest, I never got the album, Feeling Strangely Fine or something like that in 1998. But Closing Time was everywhere, and every season finale, every bat mitzvah, every, Sadie Hawkins dance, they play that last, and it's corny. And that guy has gone on to write. He writes a lot, and he wrote a couple of songs. I think he wrote one on the new Weezer album. He wrote on the previous Weezer album, and I think a couple other groups and stuff. But talk about saccharine, talk about just watered down. I mean, I don't.
First of all, in the Semisonic, in the Closing Time video, doesn't the lead singer of Semisonic look like James Vanderbeek from Dawson's Creek?
You're right. Just a less hunkier version.
In that video, not in any other thing I've seen him, but in that video, it looks like it's a Dawson's Creek like pilot episode where they're starting a band.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
I went so strongly because I'm thinking like that. I really do like Closing Time, but I can't name another Semisonic song, so I can't disagree with you on that at all.
Your yearbook quote was everyone's beginning some. Wait, what is it? How does that line go? It's so corny. Everyone's beginning some.
Everyone's beginning is the beginning is. Oh man, I have no idea.
Starts with some other beginning's end. Was he BMSing when he wrote that? I don't.
It's something about pregnancy or something.
Nice.
It has something to do with kids. Somebody told me that, and I'm like, really? It's like, yeah, I know who I want to take me home. I'm like, what does that mean?
Nice.
Hit each other right after you're born, and you know it. You're
Nice.
socially aware as an infant.
So yeah, I'm not a big fan. Here's another terrible one that I just kind of mentioned. Creed with their Human Clay album. They started after Kurt's death. They
You know
never.
what? That's why it was tough for me to come up with bad ones, because I have Creed also. I agreed.
It can't get much worse. They never had that like album with Rick Rubin where they turned it around and like recorded on a tape deck. Nothing like that. They've always been pompous. They've always been what I hear in the news. They're all assholes. What they try to proclaim that they're Christians, but they couldn't be more jerks to their other bands on the bill and stuff.
Was the guy's in a porn movie or something? Wasn't he like doing that soundtrack for porn or something like that? I don't know. He got caught doing coke or something. They threw him out of the band.
Now that makes more sense. Yeah, but yeah, never had one not a good song. It's just I'm not feeling it. But definitely, I would say they are post-grunge.
Yeah, well, absolutely they are, and that like sort of they're like a hardier rockin' version, and they kind of take some of the elements and they bring it to a bigger place, and they are things like that are the reason why things like Nickelback happened, like those schlock rock bands that.
That is my number one most hated post-grunge band, Nickelback, because I looked it up. They started in '96.
Oh, they're the definition.
They're
they
the
are
worst.
what it is. Like, where is all these like when you said Semisonic, I like Closing Time. Whereas there's a couple of bands that I could say, well, I like handful of songs from them. Nickelback, Creed, these are bands that don't do that at all. They don't have one singable, nothing that is even remotely.
What's that song called? Picture or something by Nickelback, where it's like, "What's on Bobby's head?" There's like the worst lyric I've ever heard. It's that one about a picture or something.
Deep, and they get played like the New Jersey rock radio station, and it says playing all the latest hits from Nickelback. Oh yeah, that's the real rock and roll right there.
Yeah, that's that's groundbreaking. That's cutting edge, but not so much. So those are three bands that I really dislike, and why I wouldn't even put post-grunge in my top 10 genre lists or anything like that. So.
Right.
But I did bring a list of good stuff. Let's think of any other bad ones though.
You know what it is though? A lot of people like to get on bands like Seether for being sort of a post-grungy. But I like a handful of Seether songs. I don't think the guy's a bad songwriter, and they got the name of the band from Veruca Salt's song.
That's true. Yeah, I haven't heard much I like from them, but like I'll give it to them. Like it's all put together, kind of nice. I feel like our friend Concert Chick would know about some post-grunge bands because she's always tweeting about like Theory of a Dead Man and stuff. Is that post-grunge or is that just new metal or something like that?
They would like Wikipedia would put it on. They would put the post-grunge label on there because somebody added it. But I wouldn't. They're post-grunge because they came out after grunge came out. So yeah, I guess. But I mean, how long are we gonna be naming bands post-grunge? Like if me and you start a band that has effects pedals, could we be post-grunge? I mean, even though it's 30 years ago, I mean.
I think it depends on the vocalist, how throaty his voice is. Like you can't be Tom York and be in the. You could be Tom York and be in a metal-y grunge band, and it still wouldn't be post-grunge because the guy sings like a choir boy.
Right.
Yeah, he's
the
not.
Concert Chick would know about. She knows. She sees so many shows.
She does. She's a very nice girl. She always retweets you and she supports our shows. It's a nice thing to see.
Oh yeah, she's good times. I wish I could see the amount of shows she goes to.
Have you met her in person or no?
No, I've never been to Illinois.
Yeah, she's in like down. I think she's not by the city though. She's downstate or Indiana, kind of by.
If I ever get there, we know she'll drive.
Nice.
Drives everywhere. I'll meet you, and she'll drive up, and we'll have beers and brews.
Cool. I'm totally down. Yes, but on the good side of post grunge.
I'll tell you a band I like.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Grunge band I like. I like Silverchair.
I love Silverchair. I think they're a very good band. Yeah.
I think Frog Stomp, that it came out in early '95, was a very good album, and they got pegged for like jocking the whole grunge thing. I actually found an article from the Village Voice from 1995.
Oh, nice.
And it's this guy reviewing a bunch of albums before Thanksgiving, and he says, "Full respect." Frank Lyman and Roxy Shanty, but every once in a while, in the business, you catch yourself thinking that teenagers don't know dick. these Aussie adolescents admire Nirvana and Pearl Jam, which is cute, and sound like Pearl Jam, exactly like Pearl Jam, except no good, which is useless. It's like, dude,
Wow.
they're 15 years old. Like,
What kind of snarky writer sits and writes that about 16-year-olds? Yeah.
they were 15 at the time. Like, I remember my friend Linda Kite, who I know through the Meat Puppets, who used to be, she was engaged to D. Boone before the car accident from the
Whoa,
Minutemen.
that's awesome. Okay.
It's not awesome that he's dead, but it's
No,
awesome.
but that you know her. Yeah, wait, okay, yeah, I think I've seen the name. That's awesome.
So I was talking to her, and she was telling me about they were backstage one time. You know, the Meat Puppets. I don't know if they were playing or they were on tour with Nirvana, and there was some MTV thing, and they saw like the kids from Silverchair and their moms were there, you know, and it was just like, how can you hate those boys?
Yeah, I definitely couldn't hate on them, and like they had like 3 big singles from that album. It had to go at least platinum. They're being like driven to the recording sessions because they're not 16 during the recording of it. My hat's off to that, you know.
It's not like auto-tune was big back then, you know. It's not like somebody went in and fixed it to sound like that. If 15-year-olds can play music that, you know, sounds like, hey, it might be a Nirvana ripoff chord, but it sounds pretty good, then fuck it, let them have it, you know.
Yeah.
Nobody's edited.
And they're a trio. You can't really hide in a trio. Everybody has to do their thing. And so, yeah, I think Frog Stomp's great. I like Freak Show.
Yeah,
The one
Freak
after
Show.
that was good, too. The one after that, they kept getting more watered down, just like most bands. And then that last one, which I think had some hits on it, too, but they had, like, short haircuts and, like, were trying to look like models and stuff. I don't know.
It gets me mad when bands cut their hair. I'm mad at Jerry Cantrell for that.
Or Metallica Load when they cut their hair. Yeah, that's...
They'll do anything to piss off their fans. We know Metallica by now. They love pissing off their fans.
You could almost say that they kind of hit into a post-grunge sound, which is it's an insult to them because they've been around for like 15 years before grunge even started. But they kind of incorporated post-grunge for that Load and Reload and that sort of stuff.
Well, that would be like saying, well, and it's true, like Too High to Die by the Meat Puppets is sort of post-grungy. Because it came out in 95 after the Unplugged and after all that happened, even though they've been around since 1981.
Sure, or it's like saying Eminem ripped off Wiz Khalifa or something.
Yeah, exactly, because it's so, Wale, it can't happen.
I wasn't feeling Eminem until I saw that. Did you see his recent freestyle that he did like a week ago in like a abandoned building in Detroit?
I didn't see it. My friend Chach told me I should check it out.
So I was talking mad shit about it on Twitter. I think we were going back and forth about something like maybe like a anti-woman lyric.
Beat Lana Del Rey or something like that.
Like Ray Lewis.
Yeah.
And
I didn't know the Ray Lewis part. That's actually a pretty good message. But I mean, the beating women thing, not cool, not funny. I know what he's trying to do. I get it. It's art, and he's kidding, and all that stuff. But he has gotten less edgy since he's become sober. I'm sorry.
It's totally true, and I've been on that tip so much, but then I heard this latest freestyle, and he's just going off and off and off, and I'm like, okay, yeah, he still has it somewhere in there. He just needs to clock into it at a more frequent rate. But so that was cool. But yeah, back to the post-grunge. Another good. How about the Eels?
The Eels. What was this?
I consider them post-grunge because they had their big hit. It was Novocaine for the Soul was their hit in '96. And just a very dark sound. Another trio. I think they're from New York. I could be wrong, but the lead singer's name is E. And I would. Are you familiar with them too much or no?
Eels. Well, I know that I have them on my phone here somewhere. They're on some. I think they're on like some.
Nice.
500 songs of 90s or something like that. Or some list I got, but I am familiar with them, and I got no beefs. I got no beefs with them being post-grunge. Yeah, their first album came out, Beautiful Freak, came out in '96, right?
Yeah, '96, Beautiful Freak, and trio sound, guitar sound, and they've also calmed down in the coming years after that. But I think that they did their own thing with the grunge sound, and I enjoyed that. It's kind of like the Toadies sound, how they definitely had a grunge sound, but had good songs that you could remember.
That's a great segue. I was going right to the Toadies.
Nice.
I was going right to the Rubberneck. I was going right into Rubberneck next.
Great album, actually.
It came out '94, And because I saw the Toadies a couple of years ago for the first time, I had never seen them live, and I had the opportunity to get in because I write for Concert Confessions, and I was able to get in, which is weird. It was cool. I got it free, and I got in. I saw them. I'm like, dude, they sound really like. I mean, Possum Kingdom isn't the only thing that sounds remotely related to the grunge scene. Like they're Tyler and I Come From the Water and all their whole Backslider. That whole album is
I wonder where they're from. They're not from Pacific Northwest, are they?
Oh, they're from Texas, I think. Why do I want to say Texas?
Okay, I could kind of see that. Kind of that scratch acid.
Fort Worth, Texas.
Nice.
But see, they formed in '89. So
really? Okay. Because that was their debut album, though, right? Maybe they had some independent ones.
It was their I know what it was. It might have been their major label debut.
That's probably what it was. Okay. But yeah, that's highly recommended. That still holds up. They had trouble following that up, and
right. Their recent album is good. Their album that came out like last year, the year before, that's a good album. But
cool.
There's not many. How many of us are still? We're getting older. The fans of grunge are getting older and disappearing.
That's true.
New ones coming.
How about this one, Bush? I really, really, really enjoyed their debut album, 16 Stone, and then what made me respect them more is they went with Steve Albini for the follow-up, Razorblade Suitcase. It sold about 1/10 the amount of the first album, but that's what happens in rock and roll, and it got bad reviews too, because I think his songwriting, he didn't try to write hits on that one. They went more for textures and stuff like that. And geez, I'm making Bush sound like genius, but yeah, they are. That first album is so good.
At that time, Bush was huge. Bush was everywhere. They were all over MTV. I remember MTV used to do the spring break thing, and I remember watching that they were playing live in the rain or something, and it was just so freaking cool. And I was like, Bush is awesome. And I wrote down that you were gonna say Bush, and that's why, I knew that was one that you were going to use. I don't know why.
Nice.
that was the one that let's try not to have that one in common. But yeah, 16 Stone and the Razorblade Suitcase, because I remember being into them for years. It wasn't just that one album.
Yeah, it had Swallowed and a couple other good songs on there. It's a good album. That's Razorblade Suitcase. But yeah, in coming years,
Gwen Stefani, and no doubt was putting out good albums, or when they were together.
Sure.
Their first two albums are good. I mean, if they weren't more ska, they were after grunge too, if you want to call them post-grunge.
Yeah, same era, but way too many horns, way too much ska to be much grunge. But I feel like Cobain wouldn't dig Stefani too much, but she's too happy.
I think if he was alive, if Kurt Cobain was alive, he would listen to music and kill himself again.
It'd be interesting to say, like, what bands would he like now? It would be few and far between. I don't know, but that would be an interesting topic for a full show. But
a lot of bands are there's a lot of bad music out there. I mean, it could, because music's easier to share. It could be the death of the record company.
He might dig Queens of the Stone Age, but maybe he thinks Josh is too macho or something. It would be a really weird idea for a show to think of what Kurt would thought of 2014 in music. Maybe next time you're on.
Yeah, there was an article in Rolling Stone, like, if Kurt Cobain was alive. Or not Rolling Stone, might have been Spin. I'll email it to you.
Nice.
I'm not going to put the link right now, but yeah, we'll save that for. Yeah, you're right. It is a whole show. It is a whole show.
But yeah, there's not that many other ones. Live had a really good album with Throwing Copper. They had their own unique sound and flavor on grunge. But once again, next album sucked. The next album sucked even harder. Where are they now?
Speaking of where are they now? Local H has always been there, and they get. I mean, even though Scott Lucas yelled at me, I'm not going to let that bother me. They've always been putting out the closest sound to that grunge sound. And actually, there's a clip on YouTube of early Local H. It's like '96 when they put out As Good as Dead in '96. It's actually their second album, but I think that's their major label debut. And Bound for the Floor, copacetic. It was all over the radio. And the DJ says to Scott Lucas, he says, a lot of people call up, they say, what was that Nirvana song that you just played? And he got really mad. He's like, you think we sound like Nirvana? They're not putting out any more albums. He got really mad about it. But when you listen to the guitar, because here's the thing, you can't accuse Local H of trying to sound like Nirvana because Local H this guy's playing two instruments at one time. So they can never be accused of being like anybody unless that guy is playing the bass and the guitar at the same time. But their sound is really, it's really like heady pedals is what I want to call it. Heady pedals. Because they got it's a lot of stuff going on, even from Ham-Fisted, even their early stuff. And if you listen to their most recent album, Hallelujah, I'm a Bum, a lot of political elements on it, but also like songs like Say the Word and Night Flight to Paris, just the crunchy guitars.
Yeah.
It just feels, and his voice, he's got a really good voice for somebody who's not in a famous band.
He's got a great voice. They are a great band. They got a new drummer now. It's their third drummer. I was watching the Guided by Voices show this summer in Wicker Park, Chicago, and I turn around and there's Scott Lucas just in the crowd watching it because I'm in the front row and he's right next to me. Dude is super scary. Dude has a scary face, has a scary demeanor about him. I love how on Local H on Facebook he goes, he found this kid selling an autograph for $50 of his.
So mad.
He got so pissed, and part of me wants to be like, Scott, just relax. It's just a kid trying to make a couple bucks.
But at the same time,
it's a jerk maneuver too. Yeah.
Scott goes to the merch table after every show, and he'll take a selfie with you. He signs hundreds of things a night. Like, so actually a Scott Lucas autograph, if you've been to a Local H show, it's not rare at all.
No.
So for someone to be making profit off it, he stayed an extra hour to do that. I mean, as much as he yelled at me, he stayed an extra hour to do it.
I think he was totally in the right for, complaining about that, because he does spend time after every show to make sure everybody gets their autographs and pictures so that this doesn't happen, you know?
It's not like he's like Pete Townsend. You're not getting any more. It's not that. Not doing that.
Yeah, but they had their original sound. They're a duo. They had that Chicago, that shitty 90s bad economy Chicago sound. Bands like Pulsars had that same thing, which is also a duo. It's kind of a Chicago thing to have the duo going on. And but I loved As Good as Dead. I mean, they had the song called Eddie Vedder that puts you in the grunge for just having that on the back of your album, you know.
It's just, because they said they needed a name for it. They needed a famous, they were going to use a famous name, and I guess Kurt Cobain wasn't alive at the time. And these guys grungified a Lorde song. I mean, that cover of Team by Lorde, I mean, if rock bands keep covering Lorde, I might come around to Lorde.
Yeah, I mean, he does weird covers. Like, he's done Britney Spears. He's done...
I love that cover. Toxic, I love that. All the covers are great. They're like the best cover band ever. Joey by Concrete Blonde.
Sure, yeah. Well, that might be where he shows his sense of humor, is through his cover choices.
Exactly, yeah. I don't understand what he's so mad about.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like just his earlier albums, it seems like he had a rough childhood, a rough upbringing. I don't know what his family life was like. I kind of get that look in his eye.
It's over now, man.
That's true.
As looking around the world and dealing what we're dealing with, I mean, we're all okay.
That is true.
You're famous. I pay to see you. I'd still pay to see him.
So they got to be having their 20th anniversary pretty soon, if not already has happened, because... that first album came out in 95. As Good as Dead came out in 96, and then they pretty much hit 96. So
they were active from 90, but yeah.
Really? Okay, shit.
But I mean, yeah. Well, that's what it says.
Okay.
Define active. Active could be rehearsing in a basement, not really without a name.
I always like that. Like, you look up like somebody like the Black Keys, and it'll be like formed in 1994. You're like, what? Yeah. Really? Okay. What were they doing for the first 16 years of that? Like.
That's like not for nothing. Tool. I didn't know Tool is so old school. I mean, I know they were, but they don't feel like they are.
No, they don't.
I know that. I remember watching their video, Beavis and Butthead spoofing their video, so I know it was the 90s. But I mean, it just doesn't feel like that they've been around as long as Everclear or some shit like that.
Sure. Well, yeah, they've been around for a long time, but I heard that the other guys want to make a Tool album. But Maynard is just making too much money at his vineyard in California, which seems like a really nice, cool, chill life. Maybe he doesn't want to, I don't know, but who knows what happened.
So they were in the studio, or at least most of the band was in the studio. They took a picture, like, new album due out soon. Like, we're working on it.
Nice.
I love the reports that the bands might be working on a new album. That's your headline?
That's it. Nice.
Podcast every day, like, with headlines to attract people to click, and a podcast had nothing to do with what that headline says. And, like, he made some sort of, like, sick profit off it for no reason whatsoever besides
clickbait. Yeah.
Clickbait.
But, yeah, just about over here. My number one, this is the definition of post-grunge. You don't like the band. I think they're good. I don't think they're amazing, but their work ethic, the guy is an insane work animal. Dave Grohl and his Foo Fighters. I think that started in 95. That had the throaty vocals, that had the arena rock guitars, that had the hits. They're still doing it 20 years later. They're doing better than they ever have. They've got to be the quintessential post-grunge band, in my opinion. So
yeah, well, you know what the thing is? I mean, if you take the smartest kid in the special ed class, he's still in special ed, right? I mean, music has really gotten bad over the since Kurt Cobain. Music has sucked, and it has just been a downward spiral. I mean, yeah, you get a few good albums here and there from a few good bands, but just overall, like, things don't really thrill me as much as they used to anymore. Maybe I'm just not young. Maybe I'm just, older and I don't get excited. Maybe I'm bitter. Maybe I'm sick of like I said, I'd love to hang out with Dave Grohl someday. And if I ever had the opportunity to sit and have a drink with Dave Grohl, I'd say, Dave, I love you, man, but I just wish you'd get back to the drumming. That's what I'd tell him. And he would respect me for being honest. Whereas if I told something like that to Scott Lucas, he would punch me in the face.
That's true. Like, I would way rather hang with Dave than Scott Lucas just for the scariness. Dave doesn't scare me much, even though he seemed like he has been spending time in the gym, no homo, but like doing weights or something.
Yeah, well,
he filled up, right? Yeah, he filled out.
When you're just like hauling equipment, playing guitar, like, you ever see Slash? Like, Slash, look, he's buff. What the fuck? Like,
try Duff. Duff is ripped too. Yeah.
Yeah, these guys were mainlining heroin into their eyeballs up until like 5 years ago, and they're buff. I don't get it.
Yeah, that's a hilarious point. But yeah, so Grohl and his Foo Fighters, I think that's post-grunge in a nutshell. Yeah, no, and The Color and the Shape, the first album, those still are strong albums. And do check out Sonic Highways. But yes, do check out the J-Porks Experience every Tuesday night, jporks.com. AndyDarer.com. We've gotten our names as websites, which is that's a good sign, I think. So.
Yes, that is a good sign. I had a
It's not like WordPress.blogspot.backspace.
Yeah, man, I think it cost me $50.
Hyphen dot. Yeah, it's good just to have jporks.com. So
they have the .nyc now, and I'm not doing that. You have to be from New York City to get one. You have to pay for it. Yeah, I'm not funding this crappy city so the Nazi police force can pull me over for small amounts of plants.
Yeah.
And write me tickets. I'm not having it.
Hell no, not having it. But yeah, follow him at jporks, jporks.com. Check out the podcast. It's good stuff. And I'll get your YouTube playlist up in good order. There's 58 episodes of your show. That's around 58 hours of yapping, and that's very cool. And keep up the good work. And hopefully we can get more ears and eyes on it in the coming, this holidays and in 2015. So
definitely, I'm all for new people.
All right, sounds good. And yes, Post-Grunge was an interesting chat. Maybe we'll see what's next. Maybe we'll do that Cobain episode, or maybe cover the 2000s or something like that. Or maybe you'll have me on your show.
Maybe. I'm just wondering what subgenre we will get obsessed with next.
Nice. Sounds good. Want to thank Jay. On behalf of Jay Porks, this is Andy signing off for the Andy Darer Show. Be sure to follow Andy on Twitter. That's at Andy Darer. And like our show on Facebook. That's facebook.com/The Andy Darer Show. Videos at youtube.com/Andrew Martin Darer. And we're on iTunes. Just search The Andy Darer Show. Please leave a review. Thanks so much to our wonderful sponsors, Uncle Love's award-winning barbecue, Record Utopia, The Band Great, and Amazon.com. Theme song courtesy of Rich Banks Music. Thank you so much for checking out The Andy Dare Show. TheAndyDareShow.com.